Hey everybody, it's Ricardo Gorski, and in this video I'm going to talk about why wealth is leaving the UK, where it is going to, and my top tip, my favorite destination for British individuals that are looking for a new country to relocate to. So let's start, and a common term in this world is the UK wealth exodus. So wealth that is leaving the UK, specifically London. And just a little bit about the general intro. I'm actually into lower taxes for 6+ years. As you can see here, I uploaded my first video about living in Cyprus in 2020, where I'm talking about the tax benefits of Cyprus, which we will go into in a minute. First, let's talk about the fact that more people than ever are actually interested in and actually doing a relocation of their self, their family and their business. And especially in the West, Central Europe and the Nordics countries see a big outflux of their entrepreneurs, business owners, wealthy individuals and so forth. And the similarities I see here are that those are people that actually have money. It even goes into ultra high net worth individuals that run a family office or just manage a lot of wealth, which will then logically also leave the home country. And to put this into perspective, we have some statistics here actually. As we can see, those are the top 10 country outflows of 2024 last year. Number one, we have China, which makes sense, a communistic country where you don't really have a lot of freedom of speech, of business activities, as the government will just have their hands and eyes everywhere and ears. Then at the second spot we have UK, very interesting, which we are covering in this video. Then we have India, South Korea, Russia, Brazil, South Africa, Taiwan, Nigeria and Vietnam. So we see a lot of third world countries as well, but then we just see UK here on the second spot, which is just concerning in my eyes, especially if we actually look at the projected outflows of millionaires in 2024. We can see more than 10,000 millionaires that were leaving London or UK in general in 2024, which is crazy. And some articles that are exactly about that are here, written by Reuters last year. Britain likely to lose nearly 1 in 6 millionaires by 2028, which is crazy. Every 6th millionaire will leave the UK within the next few years. Then here, The Telegraph. The rich are fleeing Labour's Britain, which is the political party currently in the UK, and we could all pay the price. Crazy to read that in such major news outlets. Just as here an article by the Washington Post, are the super rich leaving London? Tax changes could spur wealth exodus. Again, this term right here. And all of those articles just come to the conclusion, yes, the wealth exodus is real. And I even see it myself when we have UK and British elites. It is just our main clientele. Not just that, the main audience on YouTube and other social media platforms from Tax.One, it is always the UK people that are interested in that. I mean, I visited London some months ago with our chief legal officer from Tax.One, and we were discussing the wealth exodus, people relocating to other countries in front of a big crowd, a lot of entrepreneurs that were specifically into real estate, because this event was actually hosted by Alfie Best, a billionaire, a friend, client and business partner of ours, and we were discussing less tax and more wealth. And we basically presented Cyprus as a plan B, and why I also think that it is interesting for you if you're watching this video. I will go into that in a minute. First, I wanted to mention the problems that we identified after our speech, talking to those entrepreneurs, business owners, just people that have the UK currently as their home country. And what I realized is that everyone that is into business, into serious business, at least was thinking about or is thinking about leaving the UK. And the common problems that we see in the UK is the high taxes, a lot of new taxes popping up. They are discussing wealth tax, exit tax, this and that, contribution, all the things that I know from my home country, Germany, where it is just super complex to start or run or manage a business because of the bureaucracy, accounting, auditing, all is just super complex. And just as the quality of life and the quality of services, the public sector, the infrastructure and the national health system, the health care system in general, is just declining the quality in my eyes. And in the eyes of the people that I was talking to in London, here in the Pullman Hotel just a few months ago. Then obviously rising crime rates. I mean, everyone that has social media sees those videos of people being on their bikes, central London, stealing phones, knife crime out of hand. It's literally crazy. And even that is the same in Germany, where I see trucks driving into Christmas markets, and I'm just super sad about all these things that happen there from a lifestyle point of view, from raising a family point of view. But then obviously also we have the business point of view. And I personally came to the conclusion that the UK and Central European countries and the Nordics are a non-business friendly environment. And I never gave out so many business cards like on that event there, talking to entrepreneurs. And specifically Alfie Best, which is the gypsy billionaire, quite popular or known in the UK for his real estate empire that he built, was talking or is talking actively and publicly about his 50 plus active tax investigations by the HMRC, which is just crazy. And that is why he decided last year to leave the UK and move to Monaco in early 2024. But just recently, he received the info that he was still considered a UK tax resident for the tax calendar year of 2024, because British people know that the tax calendar year in the UK is a little bit different than the normal calendar or even the tax calendar year of most countries, where the tax calendar year starts and ends in somewhat around spring, so April to May or something like that. Just unnecessarily confusing. Another point on why the UK is just unnecessarily complicated in these matters. And this basically showed me once again that leaving the UK becomes harder and harder for individuals and businesses, because Alfie has private banking going on, and the private banks in Monaco are legally required to report via CRS to his home country how much money he has, where he is residing, what he is doing. And then the private banks were actually almost somewhat of a reason that the UK now actually wants some further money from him in addition to the active tax investigations that he has. And so this just shows how ridiculous governments and tax authorities, governmental bodies and semi-governmental bodies even wants to put you down as an entrepreneur and just punish you for success. And this is why Alfie is not the only one, not the only billionaire leaving the UK. We have Richard Branson many years ago, Alan Sugar, Jim Ratcliffe, James Dyson, and even Charlie Mullins recently decided to leave the UK. And this is why there is another report by Reuters where it says UK has fewer billionaires in 2025, which Sunday Times Rich List shows. And here the last sentence is quite interesting. The list had 156 billionaires for 2025, lower than 165 in 2024. So the 2025 decline continues, a trend seen in recent years. So we have less millionaires, less billionaires, and this obviously leads the political parties and the lower class or the middle class in the UK with quotes like, "That's unfair. Why are the rich leaving us with all those problems here? Tax the rich even more. It's their fault that we have all of those problems because their tax money could be used to solve the issue." But if we are being honest, what is the tax money being used for? Foreign affairs, financing war crimes, financing illegal immigration, basically just things that I know myself from Germany. That's why I can say a few words about that, but I don't want this video to be too controversial. Everyone can have their own opinion on it. What I want to quote here is basically Rob Moore, a successful entrepreneur, born and raised in the UK as well, and he himself is tweeting quite some interesting posts, of which one of that is 45% of the UK population do not contribute any income tax, almost half. Yet the top 0.1% earners pay 10% of the total taxes, the top 1% pays 29% of the tax, and the top 10% in together pay 69% of the total tax revenue. Let's go back here where they say tax the rich. So I hope you see where I'm going, because So no, we should not tax the rich more. They are already taxed more. No wonder all the millionaires and billionaires, I would add here, are leaving the UK. And how is this fair? So this is where we just have this paradox, this contradiction of the country getting worse and worse. Millionaires and billionaires obviously leaving because they can. They are not reliant on the local businesses, on the 9-to-5 job, which most individuals in the middle class and lower class have. And this is where I would say it's the government's own fault. I mean, look at this reform of the taxation of non-UK domiciled individuals. So the non-dom status in the UK, which was super popular for all of those wealthy individuals relocating to the UK. And now, who's likely to be affected? We see here. Individuals and employees who currently hold non-domiciled status and new arrivals, so even new individuals that were thinking about going to the UK, who have non-UK assets of foreign income or gains. And we see here, the new regime will provide 100% relief on foreign income and gains for new arrivals to the UK, which was the case before for many, many years. But here it says, in their first 4 years of tax residency. And after that, they are being taxed on all their worldwide income. So it doesn't make sense for those super rich people to relocate to the UK anymore, because after 4 years they are taxed just as domiciled individuals. And 4 years is nothing. I've been in Cyprus for 6 years now, and I know how fast time can pass. Now even worse, inheritance tax. All of those high net worth individuals, ultra high net worth individuals are obviously thinking about the inheritance. And here there is a change just recently, an update that was implemented by the UK government. And what is happening here is they are changing the liability for inheritance tax, or IHT, from a domiciled based tax to a residency based one, meaning now everyone has to pay inheritance tax if they are residents in the UK. Absolutely crazy. And this just leads to the fact that there are so many people leaving the UK. And now the next question is, okay, where are Brits, or I would rather say British residents and wealthy people, relocating to? And for that, we have the same source, New World Wealth, who also stated the top country inflows. So countries in 2024 that had the most gain in new millionaires. Very important, it's basically millionaire migration here. We have the UAE, which is not a big surprise, USA, Singapore, Canada, Australia, Italy, Switzerland, Greece, Portugal, and Japan. When you have those countries in your mind, the last thing you will think about is the problems that we have in the West. And so all of these countries have in common lower taxes, or fair taxes, tax incentives, personal income tax deduction, IP box regime, non-dom status, all those kinds of things that are just entrepreneur friendly. Because choosing where you live is much more important than most people know or understand. It is not just about taxes, don't get me wrong. It is about the lifestyle, about the safety, where your kids go to school to, the business opportunities you have, the dating pool you have, the water and air quality, and all of those things are basically so good in those countries listed here in the country inflows. And two countries that I wanted to mention specifically are the UAE and Cyprus, because those are two jurisdictions I'm also living in, or I have entities in. And that is first the UAE. I just incorporated a free zone company there. I applied for the Emirates ID. It is this lovely card right here, which allows me to stay in the UAE for as long as I want, work from there, and basically just do business there and access their benefits, lifestyle, network, whatever, you get the point. And obviously I also have the option for 0% income tax if I were to stay in the country for more than 183 days, but I will stay a tax resident of Cyprus. I have a separate video explaining exactly why and how much it costs, etc. And then also the 9% corporate tax, even though we have the small business relief right now until the beginning of 2027, where you can still take advantage of 0% corporate tax, which is one reason of why I incorporated the company in the UAE. Then obviously Dubai, super safe, not just Dubai, the UAE in general, Abu Dhabi, Qatar, all the countries right there in the Middle East are amazingly safe. Before I went to the UAE, I heard many people say, okay, you can leave your Rolex here and there and no one will steal it, but I didn't really grasp what this actually mean until I was in the gym seeing Patek Philippe's and Richard Milles and iPhones and MacBooks just being there with no one looking over it. Obviously, this has disadvantages as well because there are a lot of cameras everywhere, but let's leave that aside because we will also mention an alternative solution in a minute. In general, Dubai, UAE, fast lifestyle, amenities, like you can literally do anything, get anything in the UAE, and the people are definitely amazing there. You can just walk past Leonardo DiCaprio or just some billionaire sitting in front of you making hundreds of millions in revenue, and you would never guess that because those people feel safe there. Those people take advantage of the benefits there, the tax advantages, the lifestyle, the possibilities and opportunities the country has. And obviously what made me pull the trigger, because I'm aware of the UAE for a long time, but I wasn't quite happy with some of the actions that they did in the past. But now they have an improved reputation and they are whitelisted by a lot of different institutions. They were just whitelisted by the FATF. They also got removed from the money laundering list, the high risk list of anti-money laundering. And so this showed me, okay, the reputation of the UAE is improving. It gives me more international infrastructural access to banking, etc. Even Stripe works with UAE companies now. So that gives me quite some flexibility and possibilities to operate with a UAE company, which wasn't really the case before because they were labeled as tax haven and money laundry, etc., etc. But now I wanted to mention Cyprus, the country I'm living in for 6+ years, the country I'm talking about so much just because I want to make more people aware about it. And I want to explain why I think it is one of the best, if not the best country to relocate to, especially as a wealthy British citizen. And first of all, I wanted to mention it is completely different than the UAE. It is a slower pace of life here, more laid back. We don't have as much action going on here as in the UAE. It is definitely one of the safest EU countries. It is a small country with a population of 1 million, but in the 6 years that I lived here, I never really heard about any serious crime. We are close to the Middle East, which is concerning a lot of people. But my argument here is we are not a target. The opposite. We are actually a safe haven. We have a lot of historical points where Cyprus used to offer help for citizens from Lebanon, for example, during the Lebanon War, where we helped them as evacuating them, even Australian citizens. All of these nations and countries use Cyprus as the safe haven instead of targeting us. We are a European member country. We have NATO ties with the UK and US bases that are here on the ground. So I never really think about the war that is, geographically quite close, but just as the Ukraine-Russia war is close to Poland, it doesn't really make sense for those nations to attack Poland because Poland is not really involved in that, and we are not really involved in those issues either. Hope you get the point. Other than that, amazing climate, nature, we have waterfalls here, we have amazing beaches here, we have the Mount Olympus, we have the Troodos forest, beautiful, beautiful nature. Sea caves, all of that, you have to see it yourself. By the way, if you haven't visited Cyprus, at least come for a visit, by the way, or as a tourist. Then the low living costs. I was in Dubai, I spent so much money. I came back to Cyprus, I spent so little money. I was in London. The money you pay for a dinner there, you can have 3 dinners here with wine bottles and all of that. I'm paying 1,100 euros for a penthouse apartment in Paphos with a beautiful sea view, mountain view, covered parking spot. You can find villas for 2,000 euros here with your own private pool. So this is what I mean with low living costs. And we have the tax benefits. 0% dividend tax as a non-dom individual, which everyone can apply for, by the way. 12.5% corporate tax, 15% probably soon because they applied for the 15% corporate tax as it is the lowest corporate tax, the minimum global corporate tax coming from the US. Then we were under British colonial rule until 1960, as I said, which leads to the fact that Cyprus is bilingual. We have the left-hand traffic. We have a lot of rules, laws, and systems by the Brits. For example, the title deeds, the real estate business is very similar to the UK, and we have a lot of British communities, people living here since the 90s. Now, like a new wave of Brits coming to Cyprus, Germans coming to Cyprus, a lot of Lebanese, Israelis, a lot of individuals. We are multicultural, international. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is we have visa and PR options for everyone. Even if you're non-European, we have the option to buy a property worth at least 300,000 euros. It must be a new property, buying it from a developer, an off-plan property, and then you have the option for the permanent residency here in Cyprus, where you can also sponsor your family members with just buying one property. And now, if this sounded interesting to you, leaving the UK, seeing Cyprus or the UAE as a new option, or any other country, this is where Tax.One helps you as professionally as possible. We are advising on individuals and businesses to relocate to low-tax jurisdictions and pay as little tax as legally possible. So if you're interested in that, reach out to us on Tax.One, and if you subscribe to the channel, I will see you in the next video.